pyramids.
Just
You had
pyramids?
Pyramid construction.
Okay. Pyramids. Just pyramids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pyramids have been a source of great debate all through the world. How can so many societies with no interaction create such architecture? Most commonly, when we think of pyramids, we think of those located in Egypt. However, they're found all around the world, with locations such as Mexico, Sudan, Iraq, Guatemala, Italy, and throughout Southeast Asia. The pyramid shape was first used in ancient Mesopotamia, with mud brick structures known as ziggurats. Although the location, details, and sizes of the pyramids vary, they do share some striking similarities. What does all this mean, though? Why were ancient humans building pyramids in the first place? Why do they appear in so many cultures that would not interact until much later in time? There have been many ideas presented to explain the similarities among these dispersed pyramids. Most famously, there has been an idea that the concept of pyramids was passed down from one main mother culture. Most notably, Atlantis. Yes, Atlantis.
Are you sure it was Atlantis?
Yes, quite positive in fact. It's been a common idea that Atlantis gifted the world with pyramids, also complex mathematics, and advanced technologies. Believers in this idea find support in the wide geographic distribution of common symbols such as spirals, pine cones.
They hauled the, that's how they made our DNA. They took their magic pine cones and then,
and the swastika. Another alternative explanation for these cross-cultural pyramids are aliens. You heard right. Aliens.
Aliens.
There was definitely a lot on aliens built the pyramids, but I really didn't come across why very often.
No one put why.
Yeah, there was really no explanation of, why they would have wanted to build giant cones on Earth.
Yeah.
No, I definitely fell down a rabbit hole to find information, and it was a very, very scary rabbit hole.
Aliens!
Aliens with advanced technologies to cut the stones used to fit so precisely together, as well as transport all the materials needed to complete them in such a relatively short amount of time, specifically with the Egyptian pyramids being about 1,000 years. Those who believe in the ancient aliens idea have interpreted hieroglyphics to show depictions of extraterrestrials, flying saucers, and or UFOs. The last alternative explanation I'll explain is that the idea that pyramids were used as power plants. As seen in History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Season 12, Episode 7, the show claims that the pyramids harness the resonant power of the Earth and distribute it around the world, specifically in regards to the pyramids found at Teotihuacan in Mexico. It continues to describe how mercury and mica, which are not naturally occurring in that area, were incorporated into the pyramid and used as a source of power to harness energy.
Aliens.
These alternative explanations for the cross-continental pyramids are interesting, but their basis in factual evidence is lackluster.
So, if there's not a common source for pyramids around the world, why are they all so similar? Actually, pyramids vary around the world in their function, size, form, and placement. In terms of function, pyramids around the world were used for many different things. Some were religious buildings, some had astronomical alignments, and some were landmarks and city centers. The pyramids of Giza specifically were monuments to dead pharaohs. The Mayan pyramids had several uses such as sacrificial rituals. Some served as large landmarks that helped navigate the village areas. Other types of complexes with pyramids were designed to mark the equinox or solstice positions of the sun at sunrise. The size of pyramids varied around the world. In Central America, the pyramids were smaller and wider compared to those of Egypt. There are several forms of pyramids and pyramid-like structures. Flat-top pyramids with truncated platform on the top, like in Mexico and China. Pyramids with round cylindrical bases, like the Silbury Hill in England, and earthen pyramids with rectangular bases and flat tops, like Monk's Mound in the US. The Giza pyramids, located in Cairo, Egypt, use a straight slope design. The Pyramid of Djoser used a step pyramid design beginning as a square mastaba involving 6 successively smaller layers of carved limestone, rising some 200 feet high. Sumer, the most ancient major civilization, originated step pyramids known as ziggurats. Ziggurats were made of mud brick and had several tiers, with each ascending tier smaller than the one under it.
Aliens!
The simplest explanation for the common shape of all these different pyramids is related to basic physics. The pyramidal design is similar to the natural shape a pile of dirt or sand forms. A cone shape that is wide at the base and narrow at the top. In order to be stable, a tall structure made of stacked rocks without the benefit of materials like concrete and steel has to be wider at the base than at the top. A pyramid design was the most logical shape to construct large buildings in ancient times, considering the time and technology present.
How could ancient human cultures possibly have built pyramids without the help of ancient aliens? Fringe theorists often cite von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, which hypothesize that the pyramids had to have been built with help from space aliens due to the mathematical proportions relations with pi, the supposed impossibility that primitive ancient cultures could have built such perfect megalithic stone structures themselves, and the prevalence of these similar structures around the world. Let's look at the math and physics. Stating that the Egyptians had no knowledge of pi is frankly untrue. The earliest textual evidence of pi dates back to around 1900 BC. Both the Babylonians and the Egyptians had a rough idea of the value. The Babylonians estimated pi to be about 3.125, while the Egyptians estimated it to be about 3.16. So, while the Egyptians did not have a perfectly accurate knowledge of pi, they were much closer than von Daniken would have us believe. The Great Pyramid of Giza, which was built between 2550 and 2500 BC, does have a ratio of approximately 2 times pi. It has a perimeter of 1760 cubits and a height of 280 cubits, which gives it the ratio of 1760 over 280. So, the ancient Egyptians were able to refine their calculations of pi in practice while they were constructing the pyramids. 1 cubit is about 18 inches. It was measured by a person's forearm length, and so it varied from one person to another. Let's discuss the supposed perfection of these megalithic stone structures. There are examples of imperfect pyramids built by civilizations such as the Egyptians, clearly illustrating human trial and error and suggesting that there were at least some pyramids that the ancient aliens did not help us poor primitive beings construct. Humans were learning from their pyramid building mistakes as time went on. One of the earliest attempts by the Egyptians to construct a step pyramid was the Maiden Pyramid in 2570 BC. The pyramid had 7 steps, and builders were working on the 8th when the structure began to cave in on itself, and it was consequently abandoned. 5 years later, during the construction of the Bent Pyramid in 2565 BC, when the poor foundation laid by the laborers caused the pyramid to begin leaning inward upon itself when it was around 2/3 complete, builders reduced the angle of the upper portion in order to stabilize and complete the structure. Continuing to learn from their mistakes, when the Pharaoh Sneferu ordered the construction of another pyramid, the Red Pyramid, at Dashur, the builders chose a sturdier foundation for the pyramid, electing to make it the same height as the Bent Pyramid, but beginning with a wider base and a shallower angle. A side note here that may be important to consider would be that if ancient civilizations were visited by aliens, would it not have made more sense for the oldest pyramids to be the most complex, as they were the most likely to have been built by or with the help of these aliens? And so, if this theory is to be believed, the later construction of pyramids by humans alone should have been of poorer construction, as our predecessors would have been essentially acting as cargo cults imitating this more advanced race. Moving massive stone blocks that weighed up to several tons many miles and then constructing such colossal and precise structures without the help of modern technology seems impossible. The Egyptians depicted in their artwork the methods they used for moving such large objects.
I don't know, I feel like when I wasn't well informed, it was easier to be like, oh, I guess that would explain it. But like now that I know, I just feel like it's a lot more like, I'm not trying to say you're not smart if you think that, but like, you're not really looking at the evidence. I don't know.
Did you come across any evidence that made you go, maybe there really is something to this? Like maybe the similarities are really striking?
Nothing that made me believe it was extraterrestrial or mother culture. It was one of those, they each had their own distinct style, what their beliefs were, what their purposes were behind it. So I think more or less it was cultural variation versus aliens. Like, you can have fun with that, but it's fiction at the end of the day.
Looking at the pyramids today inspires many to develop fantastical explanations for their origins. These explanations, from ancient Anunnaki visitors from the planet Nibiru to the dispersal of the remnants of an Atlantean civilization, are interesting explanations for the similarities found across the globe of pyramid structures. They are, however, just fictional explanations. We know the true origin stories and physics behind these pyramids and their construction. Attributing the pyramid structures from different cultures across the globe to one mother culture or extraterrestrial source ignores all the evidence we have for their independent histories.